Some of these folks on this side said, since I preached over there last week, their toes kind of got sore. I'm going to move to the middle because I don't want them to have all the fun. And I may move over to the right side so y'all may get your steel toes next week. And maybe in the weeks coming, I'll just stand in the middle of all of you. This is a mirror. It's kind of might be like a children's moment for a minute, but that's a mirror. They make different mirrors. Did you know that? There's what's called a skinny mirror. I didn't even know there was such a thing. Retail stores and gyms have been using skinny mirrors for years. Here's what skinny mirrors do. They give you the right angle, the right lighting, so that you look taller and skinnier, and you buy that outfit that you're modeling. And then when you get home and stand before your mirror, you're like, what happened? Or if you go to the gym, you're saying, man, I am looking good. And then you get home in front of the home mirror, and you're like, what happened? It's a skinny mirror. Well, this mirror here, against Aaron's better judgment, was purchased at Costco. I spotted it in the middle of the aisles, and I said, yep, that's what I need. And she's like, what? Now she loves this mirror. I call it the truth mirror. It's not a skinny mirror, believe me. There is a side that if you hold it at the right angle, it's kind of like the skinny mirror. It'll give you a longer version of yourself, but there is a side, if you flip it, it zooms way in. It shows you that hairs are growing where they're not supposed to grow. It shows, unlike this side, it shows blemishes. And if that's not enough, it's got a light to shine on all those bad places. That's the truth mirror. Psalm 51, let me shut this off. Psalm 51 is a truth mirror. Here's the thing. Trying the truth must begin with us. Trying the truth with your family, with your friends, with your coworkers will not work unless you are honest with yourself. The truth works, but we got to use it the right way. We'll never have a right relationship with God the Father if we're not honest with ourselves. Our relationships with our children, our spouses, our coworkers, our families will never be right if we're lying to ourselves. The truth starts with us. Psalm 51 is like my truth mirror. It zooms in, shows us that something is just not right. Something needs fixed. It illustrates that we are in need. Psalm 51, you just underline it, write it down, hold it up. Psalm 51 is the greatest passage for illustrating why we need to be honest with ourselves. It is. I looked all over the Bible because I wanted to have the right scripture for being honest with ourselves. Psalm 51 is it. Now open your Bible if you have one, and if you don't, you'll just have to trust me. And I want you, underneath where it says Psalm 51, I want you to look at what the heading says. I'll give you a minute. Look at what the heading says. It says, for the director of music. Well, Ashley, this one's for you, buddy. If you stop there, that's not enough. It says a Psalm of David. All right, that's pretty good. He wrote a lot of these things. Then you get to the meat of it. Psalm 51 in the heading says this, when the prophet Nathan came to him after David had committed adultery with Bathsheba. Oof. We remember that story, some of us. The King David spotted the Uriah's wife that was pleasant to his eyes. He called upon her, and we know how everything unfolded from there and fell apart from there. This psalm was written as a response to David being called out by his truth mirror. Truth mirrors are not just things that reflect us to us. Truth mirrors are people who are completely honest with us, who know who we are and know when we're not being true to who we are. Find yourself a truth mirror. I got one. Oh, baby, do I ever have a truth mirror. I don't always like it. I have a couple truth mirrors. I don't always like what they have to say, but when I reflect on what is being presented to me, I know it's the truth. I know it's the truth. Nathan was David's truth mirror. He didn't come to David and say, "Shame on you, you unrighteous sinner." He just told him a parable that pointed in on himself so that David would figure it out himself. Nathan just served as a mirror to David so that he could see that something wasn't right. Something was off. There was a fly in the ointment. And when David sees it, he is cut to the heart. And if you read the story, he says before Nathan, "I have sinned against the Lord." And in Psalm 51, when you read it, that's exactly what he's saying all over again. He says, "Have mercy on me, O God, according to your steadfast love." That's the truth about who God is. God is a God of steadfast love, unfailing love, unflinching love. Even when we are at our lowest, God is the God of steadfast love. "Have mercy on me. Blot out my transgressions. Wash away all of my sin. For I know my sin, and it's always before me." Did I tell you this is the best passage for dealing with yourself? "Against you, O God, I have sinned. I have done what is wrong before you. Surely I was sinful at my birth. When I was conceived in my mother's womb, I was in sin. Have mercy on me, O God, according to your steadfast love. You desire faithfulness. Cleanse me with hyssop, and I will be clean. Wash me, and I will be whiter than snow. Let me hear with joy and gladness that the bones that have been crushed you have repaired. Hide your face from my sins and do not see my iniquity. Create in me a new heart, O God, and a renewed spirit will be mine." Whoo! Man, if you just read that, that's like poetry, and you'll just say, "Wow, how pretty of a psalm David wrote." But when you know the context of it, it just hits different. This is a man that is being exposed. This is a man who's standing in front of the truth mirror and not liking what he sees. But I want you to notice what happens. Keep your Bibles open and notice what happens. Psalm 51 isn't a confession. David doesn't say, "I messed up just this once." He says, "I'm a sinner from birth, and I'm dealing with this thing." Psalm 51 isn't an apology. David doesn't say, "I'm sorry for making these decisions." Psalm 51 isn't an excuse. Man, our culture is a bunch of excuse makers. David doesn't go down that road. David doesn't say, "You know what, oh God, I'm under a lot of pressure. I'm the king of Israel. I've got all these things going on. That's why the sin happened." He does not say that. Psalm 51 is a truth mirror. He says, something in me is off, and I've known it from birth. Something needs fixed. It's bent, God. It's not broken. It's just bent, and it needs repaired. And if we are honest with ourselves for just a moment, when we hear someone that is this raw, it makes us uncomfortable. Because that person, the psalmist, is becoming our own truth mirror. Because we know that what David says we are dealing with too. And we need it. We need it. And this is what I came to say to you today. The truth hurts. The truth humbles, and the truth heals. We need to try the truth because the truth hurts. The truth hurts. You ever heard that? When I stand in front of my truth mirror, whether it's this one or my truth mirror in the flesh or my truth mirror that I'm blessed by God to pick up and read, the truth hurts. The outcome of hurtful truth is clarity. The outcome of hurtful truth is clarity. We would experience so much more clarity if we were just honest with ourselves. We would. I'm wearing bifocals. You know who is not pastoral? Optometrists. They don't have time for niceties. They are brutally honest with you when you go. They don't spin anything. I went to the optometrist a couple weeks ago, and she looked at me and she said, "It's time." I knew what she meant, but I didn't like it. Kind of like a truth mirror. She was being honest with me because we had been playing games for a few years, her and I. I'd go and say, "Can't you just up my readers a little bit?" She'd kind of give me the look, and I would. I'd go back again. "Can't I just get some stronger glasses at Walmart? Won't that work?" She just kind of chuckled. This time she said, "We can keep playing this game every year, or you can just be real honest with yourself. It's time." Truth hurts. You see, going from readers to bifocals, that's to me, you know what that means. But I had to admit that to myself. And here's the really cool thing. The quicker that I could admit that, man, y'all look good. Y'all didn't look too good at the 1st of December. Kind of blurry, kind of bent. But the quicker I could admit that there wasn't clarity, I could see clearly. I think this is what Paul meant when he talked about being in the presence of Jesus, seeing so clearly. He said, when we're walking on this earth, we kind of see through lenses as if they're dirty. But someday, we will stand before Him and see Him as if He is face to face. Why? Because Jesus is truth. And when you stand in the truth, you have clarity. Now, the truth hurts because the truth humbles. I was humbled. My optometrist humbled me. But humbling's not a bad thing. Humility, brothers and sisters, is the gateway and the path to healing. Even when we sin, God can use that and flip that sin on its head for something good. In fact, have you heard of original sin? Born of sin from birth. This is what David's talking about. That's a doctrine, a church doctrine, that we are all sinners. That we all, even from our birth, it's like we have inherited sin. That's not very fair. And in fact, some of you may have said, "I reject the very notion of original sin. That does not jive with me." I'll tell you, it jives with me. I think the purpose of sin in the original place is we're not supposed to be first beside God. God says in Genesis, "I created them a little less than gods." We're not supposed to be first. And in fact, when we have sin happen, that is the place where we can really bounce, where we can fail forward, where we can, as Richard Rohr said downstairs in that book Michelle handed out, where we can fall upward. The purpose of sin is not to break us. The purpose of sin is to show us that we're bent and we need lifted up. Humility is the only pathway to healing. Now, y'all are red-blooded Americans. You think you can fix yourself. There's millions of dollars made off of self-help books. That's baloney. The whole notion of pulling oneself up by their bootstraps is a joke. Let me show you. The main reason I wore cowboy boots today was to show you that joke. Look here. Here's my bootstraps. You know what I did with these bootstraps? I put my boots on this morning. I grabbed them by both ends and I pulled my foot down in them. Now, how many of y'all would like to see me try to pull myself up, lift myself up by my bootstraps? Huh? Come on, Jamie. What are you trying to do? No one can pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. Now, if I got Jamie up here to lift on my... That's a fallacy. You know, the American dream and all that, that's the American delusion. We can't do it on our own. We were never meant to do it on our own. And in fact, our country can't do it on its own. Even if you're hearing that preached to you, it can't happen. We cannot lift ourselves up by our bootstraps. America cannot make America great again. Only God can do that. Only God can lift us up by our own bootstraps. That is the way. That is the path. And that is the truth. It doesn't work. This is why David turns to God. David doesn't say, I'm broken beyond repair. I'm in shambles, oh God. He says, I'm bent. He's saying, I'm human. And I need you, oh Lord. He's humbling himself before God. David isn't saying that I am lost without being able to be found. He's saying that something needs fixed. Our culture is in a bondage right now to dishonesty. You remember how I said last week, the truth will set you free. We're in bondage to dishonesty. We have exchanged the truth for a bunch of lies. We have exchanged the truth for falsehoods to the point that we become comfortable with lies. Christians are not supposed to be like that. We see people get caught up in lies on TV, in politics, beyond politics. They deflect. They don't admit to their problems. They minimize their problems. They don't look in a truth mirror. They blame the mirror. And in fact, they'll say, you going to believe me or your lying eyes? When we know exactly what the truth is. Here is the good news, which is the truth. God's grace begins where our sin managing ends. When you are deflecting and lying and being dishonest, you are managing sin, and you can never manage your way out of sin. God's grace begins where our sin managing ends. David knows he's incapable of overcoming his sin, but he knows there's a fix, and he knows who the fixer is. He says, you desire truth from my inward being. There it is. That's Psalm 51. You, God, desire truth in my inward being. What he's saying is I've got to be honest with myself before I can be honest with anyone else. He says, teach me to be wise in my secret heart. Are you picking up what David's putting down yet? Teach me to be wise on the inside, O God. Let me reflect your wisdom, O God. Cleanse me with hyssop. Do you know what hyssop was? Hyssop. The branch of hyssop was what the Israelites would use the blood to mark their doors during the Passover so they wouldn't die. Cleanse me with hyssop, oh God. Do you know what hyssop is? Hyssop is what the branch that they were handing Jesus when he's on the cross. Cleanse me with some of that, oh God. David is being a prophet and he's being honest at the same time. That's what prophets do. Cleanse me, oh God. Wash me and I'll be clean. I'm dirty. If there isn't a sign of humility, I don't know what one is. I'm dirty and only you can wash me, Father. Bathe me and I'll be white as snow. Create in me a new heart, oh God, because the old one ain't working. The truth hurts. The truth humbles. But here's the payoff. The truth heals. Truth heals. Here's the real payoff. It doesn't only heal you. And this is where I'm going with this entire series. The truth is not only for you, but it's for all of those that you're in relationship with. The truth heals your relationship with God. The truth heals your relationship with others. And let me be real honest right now. The truth heals your relationship with yourself. I'm going to go to my Gen Xers for a minute because I got to try to illustrate what I'm saying so you pick up what I'm putting down. The truth isn't just for me. The truth isn't just for you. The truth is when we start running after the truth, when we start chasing Jesus with all that we got, it affects everyone around us. Let me do this a second time. I was going to have you do it, but I'm going to have to do it myself. You know where I'm coming from with this? Oh yeah, I can't play that too long. We'll get in copyright violations. Go back to that movie, Rocky. You remember when that song was played? What happened? Rocky's running out of his apartment. He jumps the rail. Going up the railroad tracks. He's running by himself. He's doing inner work. He's not worried about crowds. He's not worried about applause. He's not worried about titles. He's just doing the inner work. He's running up the rails. He goes through Little Italy and people are yelling at him, but he ain't looking back. He's running. He's running with purpose. He's running through the streets of Philadelphia, and all of a sudden a couple kids start chasing him from the park. Do you remember the scene? There's a couple kids pursuing him, and he's running. And pretty soon it's not only kids, but some adults start. And pretty soon, as he's approaching the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and he's about ready to run up those famous steps, he turns around and there is a whole crowd behind him. Listen, when you run after God that way, when you're not worried about anyone else but yourself and doing the inner work and being honest with yourself, you will soon turn around and find an entire crowd chasing after you because they want what you got. Create in me a clean heart, O God. That prayer still works. We all ought to try it. If you haven't made Jesus the Lord of your life, if you haven't claimed that clean heart that only the cleanser can give, I ask you to come forward today. Maybe you've already done that and you just want to join this church and chase after God with us. I'm calling upon you today. We've got steps. We'll run up them. We'll fall before God at the altar and we will be as brutally honest with ourselves and with each other as we can, whatever the reason. If the Spirit has worked on you today, would you come now as we stand and sing?